saw this girl who looks sad eating alone, so I did this.
I see that girl down there sitting alone, and I was wondering if I could kind of just pay for a meal. Random stranger paid for your meal today? And I was like, it's a random act of kindness. You're being awesome too.
Random act of kindness. Okay.
I can try. It's someone in the...
I need to know. Just leave us alone. Leave us alone. Fork you in your random act of kindness that you literally did to exploit that woman who is clearly a little scared for likes and clicks, which made you money. Okay, so go watch her video. She does a great job deconstructing that video. I want to add something else to it. Everything men do, everything they do, the ones who have not deconstructed any of this stuff, is projection. That man can't stand being alone. So he assumes that a woman sitting by herself is just lonely and sad. I love being alone. It's one of my favorite things to do. Be alone. I love eating alone. I love going to movies alone. I love being alone because I love myself. But men can't stand being alone unless they want to self-destruct. Now, I'm making a lot of generalizations here, but so many of these lonely men are lonely because they need women. They need women for validation. They need women to do stuff for them, to make them feel good, to be their free therapist and their schmeg's doll. They need women to exploit and make them feel like they have any value in the world when they don't actually add any value to our lives, especially if they haven't done the work. So they're lonely, and they just assume that we must feel like they do because they equate being alone with loneliness when women do not equate being alone with loneliness a lot of the time, especially if it's... Do you know how many moms that I know would die to have a lunch by themselves? Maybe that woman's a mom. Maybe she's finally getting 1 second to herself, to her own thoughts, her own imagination. Although she's probably obsessing about all the people she's taking care of because she's probably married to a man who's not doing the parenting too. But so many women I know, they literally would just do anything to get a moment alone. Do you imagine having that moment and then some douchebag is like, look at that lonely woman, and buys your food and stalks you from a balcony, and then also buys you flowers but won't tell you who it's from, and then films the whole thing and uploads it to TikTok so he can make money off of you being lonely when you weren't ever lonely to begin with? He's lonely and he's exploiting you because that's what men do. Lonely men are only about exploiting women. Men in general who have not unpacked patriarchy are all about exploiting women because they don't see us as human beings. But let's just take another scenario. Let's assume she's not a mom, or she's not a single woman, a child-free woman like myself who also likes to be alone, regardless of a child factor. I don't know any women who don't have at least 1 or a dozen terrifying experiences with a man. A lot of us are survivors of stalking. I would say most of us. I've had multiple stalkers, and I had one of those was the violent partner I dated. You know, if someone bought me a meal and sent me flowers and wouldn't tell me who it's from, the first thing I would think of is like, oh my God, he's found me. Okay, so this brings me to a couple tweets I saw yesterday that summarized this whole thing about how lonely men and this stupid narrative about them. I'm so over it. Now remember, I'm the person who wrote this article, okay? I dedicated 6 months of my life talking about men's loneliness and not having friends. I actually care about this. I've done podcasts on it. I do care about men's mental health. But it seems as though I care about it, and most women care about it more than men care about it. And now men are literally using this thing that we were concerned about, not just because we're concerned for them, but because it also affects us. Now they're using that to censor themselves in every conversation. And this whole, God, y'all are making me not have empathy for you anymore. And I'm someone who literally extended more than you deserve at this point. It all started on Twitter yesterday. I think it started with this tweet. Men think that we're so heartless, but I want to explain what this tweet really means. One gender gulf I think about a lot is how women cannot know the depths that male loneliness can reach. No crying and no victims here, just sharing perspective. Again, women do care about how lonely y'all are because you lonely men end up being incels and you end up unaliving us. Or, a whole group of people. You don't just take us out anymore. You literally will enter a public building with a pew-pew and take everybody out because you're lonely. This is one of my favorite takes. It's all very funny when male loneliness is called an epidemic, while men say to women, you will live alone with your cats and dogs, and after you die, they will start eating your corpse. These men humiliate women for being lonely, but want empathy for their own loneliness. And then this one, a key difference is how the male loneliness epidemic versus the rape and domestic violence crisis is discussed. Male loneliness is assumed to be a shared responsibility. Did you hear that? A shared responsibility. We're all supposed to care about it, and women are supposed to fix it, right? Men are lonely, so all these, like that bald dude that talks about it, he like wants us to date men to save everybody because they're lonely. So it's a shared responsibility, a collective impediment, while the relentless and increasing schmegsual violence against women and girls isn't. Do you see that? We're all supposed to care about how lonely men are when y'all don't give a crap about how violent men are towards us and how they've been raping us for ever. And since you don't seem to care that they're becoming more violent because they're lonely, you still want us to care about their loneliness. It's the audacity. And then this one. I love following her, by the way. This was a follow-up to Kat's tweet. And the male loneliness epidemic, in quotes, is just disingenuous rebranding of a push to compulsory schmegsuality. They don't use data measuring loneliness. They're using data about schmegsual activity. And that right there, y'all. Are y'all really talking about men being lonely? Or is it that men don't have schmegsual partners? Because that seems to be what you're really concerned about. Y'all don't care if men are dying on the inside because patriarchy has taught them they're not allowed to have any feelings other than rage, which women are on the brunt of receiving that. No, you don't care if they're lonely. You just want them getting laid and you want them procreating. And not to mention the fact that nobody cares about all the lonely women dating men like this. Do you know how lonely it is to be in a relationship with a man who doesn't see you as a human being? You are officially coupled or married. But I would argue, as someone who is married, and I'm very happily married, and who's also dated terrible men, there is nothing lonelier than being in a relationship where that person doesn't see you, doesn't care, and doesn't even think you're a human being. You're just a means to an end. So I'm so sick of the lonely male crisis. That is not our burden to bear. Women have tried helping y'all. We've been writing about it. We've been talking about it. Been pushing you to go out and meet with your little friends. But half the time you're just meaning to talk crap about us anyway. You're not actually being intimate and vulnerable with each other. You're not developing real friendships anyway. You're actually just using that to escape your wives that you hate. So I am done. I'm tapping out. If y'all die alone, good for you. You made the bed, you lie in it. For men who actually want to do the work, who are actually genuinely interested in working on themselves, and I'm specifically talking to cis-het men here especially, because y'all are the ones who are just so lost. For those men, I am happy. I'm happy to be here and support you. My husband is actively deconstructing patriarchy. Started 2 men's groups, is still learning a lot and challenging himself every day to keep continuing to deconstruct the stuff. So am I. I've got all this crap inside of me too. It just looks different. But for men who are just gonna put this on us, fork off. I hope you die alone. Because the last thing I want to do is see another woman die from an autoimmune disease or cancer because of being so stressed dating you. I'd so much rather see lonely men out there than a bunch of women who are a bunch of bodies left in their wake. Stop taking care of these men, stop enabling these men, and stop trying to fix men who don't even want to change. Because their problem that they created is not ours to fix. Because they certainly don't care about helping fix our problems. So, bye-bye.